Welcome to our presentation on history in historic computer games. I'm Will, and with us is our historian Martin.
History has played an important role in the development of computer games. Computer games are a multi-billion-dollar business, and it seems quite logical to also keep in mind the motives of designers for producing games set against a historical or quasi-historical background. History is attractive for designers because it provides an already existing logical framework for a game while at the same time making costly license fees obsolete. In this paper, we are going to analyze some quite early computer games that were released not between 1350 and 1660, but between 1984 and 1987. These games are Seven Cities of Gold, Sid Meier's Pirates, and Hanse. Hanse is a German computer game released in 1986. It was developed by Ralf Glau in only 9 months' time and is in fact an economic simulation set against the background of medieval and early modern northeastern European trade. So it's largely focused on trade in the Baltic Sea area.
So let's play the Commodore 64 version of Hanse.
Trading goods in this game are, for example, fur, honey, wool, etc. Quite surprisingly, there is no fish you can trade, which is kind of strange from my point of view. There are also certain features of an early modern stock exchange business, which isn't that authentic because most of European stock exchanges in this time period were focused on Western Europe, and the Baltic Sea region was an area where there wasn't that much capital available.
Even for an old computer game, the graphics and the sound do not stand out here. So what makes the game interesting is the historic connection, and that probably somebody has heard about Hanse at school, and then there is the game basically addressing this topic.
The game features random events like sickness or like fires in some of your warehouses destroying some of your goods. It also quite authentically features the necessity of maintaining your ships and repairing your ships. It's also quite authentic is the fact that not every place deals with the same trading goods, so you have to think about quite logically where you're going next, because not every trading good is available at every port.
We have already seen most of the game. So basically there is this round where you select what to buy, what to sell, and where to send your ships. And then there is the next round where you earn some money and you repeat what you have done before.
What is quite obvious, if we look at Hanse, it is different from many strategy games when it comes to a national versus a transnational approach. The Hanseatic League's trading community was per se a transnational enterprise. So what is quite obvious in this game is the transnational character of trade in this time period. So you are not dealing with large empires or nation states, but you're dealing with cities where there are some representatives of the Hanseatic League, while most people of the local population might not be seen as representatives of the Hanse.
In contemporary computer game magazines, the game got a lot of bad reviews, basically because these magazines assessed games mostly based on their graphics and sound, which was not that great with this game. But it is a game that is fun to play, and it's also interesting that the authors have written it in BASIC, or mostly in BASIC. BASIC is a beginner's language that is very slow, and the computers that time also were not quite fast. So writing a good game in BASIC is not an easy thing to do. But the author succeeded, and the outcome was a game that's interesting to play, and you learn a little bit about Hanse and how it's spread in the northeastern region of Europe.
The next game we would like to discuss is Seven Cities of Gold. It was released in 1984 and focuses on 15th and 16th century exploration in the so-called New World, which is America. The name of the game itself is a reference to early modern European myths about golden cities, like the golden cities of Cibola or also the gold country of El Dorado. As you will see in Will's gameplay, there are a number of factors that are of the highest importance for success in this game. And these four factors are the number of men, the number of food, of gold, and of goods, unspecified goods you have available, which is quite surprising because the most important resource of Spanish colonial America was silver, not gold. But silver doesn't play a role in this game at all. So in this gameplay, you are leaving the old world in 1492 and you have to cross the Atlantic to discover the unknown new world.
In the beginning of the game, you stock your ship with men, food, and goods, and then you start sailing. There is no instruction where to sail to, but it's very intuitive that you would sail towards the west until you hit the shores of the New World.
If you have reached the coast, you have to start exploring the countryside. You can see the woods, you can see rivers, and as you wander through this countryside, you will also come into contact with indigenous populations. These encounters can be peaceful sometimes. Many times they're also violent, and you kill the indigenous peoples by literally just running into them, which means that European weaponry, armory technology are superior, so you are able to kill many indigenous people, although your own numbers are quite small.
There's also a peaceful way by avoiding touching the natives and carefully advancing towards the leader, and then starting to trade goods for food.
If you want to return to Europe, you have to do so by sailing along the right latitude, which is quite authentic, of course.
When you are back in Europe, you can restock your resources and men and then prepare for another journey. You can also look at your score so far and at the map you have discovered. In the normal mode of the game, you are discovering the Americas, so the shape of the landscape looks very familiar. But there is also a mode where the land you are going to explore is randomly generated, so that you don't know how the continent will look like that you're going to explore.
Of course, if we look at it from the historical point of view, in 1510, not really that much of mainland America had been discovered at all.
Also, this game has comparable simple graphics and does not use the possibilities of the computer to its full extent. But the fun of the game comes from the exploring of an unknown continent.
The last game we would like to discuss is Sid Meier's Pirates, which was first released in 1987. It's an open world game set in the Caribbean Sea in the early modern period, which means between the 16th and 18th century. You can play a pirate, buccaneer, privateer, which of course from a historical point of view are different kinds of people or different legal categories. You can select a certain time period to play in. The goods that are the most important in this game are again gold, food, but there are also other goods like, for example, tobacco. This depends on the era you're playing in.
Like the first game, Hanse, the game Pirates has significant parts of it programmed in BASIC. This is possible because many elements of the game consist of displaying text and showing lists where you decide upon your next action. There are a few action sequences in the game involved with fencing, where you have to defeat enemy captains in order to take over their ship. In this case, the story is that there is a mutiny and you are fighting against the captain.
So as part of this game, you are able to get letters of marque from certain governors, which means that you are authorized by one nation to attack ships of another nation, which is quite authentic, of course, which also shows that the lines between being a pirate and between being a privateer was very small and very fluid.
In a town, you have the possibility to visit the governor in order to get information about the current state of wars between the nations or to get some other events. You can also visit a merchant in order to have your ships repaired or to sell or restock goods. So you can also play this game as a trader. You can also visit a tavern. This is the place where you can hire new men for your party. And then there is a menu which gives an overview about the current state. And there's also an interesting option called Divide Up the Plunder, because this is the option to end the game. So you can decide when do you retire from pirating and when you want to end the game. And there is no fixed time when to do this. So it's up to you to say, I want to retire now or later.
If you leave town and sail around the Caribbean Sea, you have to keep in mind the wind systems, which is, of course, an authentic feature of this game. You could also receive land grants for your duties for a certain nation, which is also authentic, but as part of the game, it doesn't have any relevance or it doesn't really mean economic profit if you get land grants for your service.
The action part of the game consists of sailing out and have random encounters with other ships. And If you decide to attack a ship, then there is a sea battle where you can use your cannons to shoot the other ship, or you can ram the other ship. And based on the situation, either the other ship gives up, or there is a sword fight, which if you win it, then makes you the winner of the battle, and you can take over the other ship.
And one quite authentic feature is that many of the ships you attack will surrender after a short fight. There was no necessity to fight until death if you were attacked by privateers or pirates. So in the end, in regards to all three games, proper historical details pay off in the quality of the game, and the historical background that we see is still relevant nearly 40 years after the games had been released. All three games had a low-level kind of implementation. Of course, especially from a modern 21st century point of view, focus was not on graphics or sound. Hanse and Pirates implemented significant parts of the game in very simple, basic